In this lecture, we will explore end conditions for features. Those end conditions can provide us more control utilizing features like extruded boss and extruded cut. To illustrate those end conditions, we'll be creating the following model and explore different end conditions in the process. So let's go ahead and get started. First, we'll make sure our measurement system is set to millimeter, which is the case, and then I will select the front plane to start my sketch. I'm going to draw the general shape. Looks like this, and then we're going to draw an arc. So I'm going to select the arc feature and draw my arc like this. And now I will start dimensioning. This is 80. This is 85. And the radius we have is 100. The angle of the arc is 75. So to make that, I'm going to create some construction lines. One goes like this, and the other goes like this, and then I'll set the angle to 70. And this fully defines our sketch. Now I'm going to extrude this, so I'm going to extruded boss, and I'm going to set this to 80 and set the thickness to 8, and then click OK. Now we're done with our general shape. Now I can start creating the central wedge. So I will select this plane for my sketch, and I will create a rectangle. I'm going to set the lower edge to be collinear with the edge of the shape we have, and then the upper edge to be collinear with the upper edge. The width of this rectangle is 20, so I'm going to set that to 20. Now I want to have this rectangle centered on this face. So to do that, I'm going to use construction lines. So I'll go normal to the sketch again, and then create two construction lines. One goes like this, and the other goes like this. If I make those two construction lines equal to each other, I will have the rectangle centered, and it is fully defined already. Now I'm going to features and use extruded boss. In the extruded boss window, you will usually see the default condition as blind. If I hover the mouse, it will tell you end condition blind. So here we have a list of end conditions which we can use to govern this extruded boss we're creating. So for this lecture, we're going to go through all of the ones on the list. Blind end condition is the most basic one, and we've used it many times before. And in that, you're basically specifying how much extrude you want. So if we have that 80 millimeter, it will extrude to 80 millimeters, and so on. Through all, we've used through all before as well, and what through all does is it takes the extrusion throughout the whole of the model. So if I use that, you're going to notice the extruded boss goes all the way to the edge of the model. Up to next takes the extrusion to the next face or surface. So if I select that, you're going to notice the extrusion goes all the way to touch the next face. Now we go to up to vertex. In up to vertex, from the name we can select a vertex, and whichever vertex we select, the extrusion will go up to that vertex. So if I select this corner here as a vertex, the extrusion will go all the way to this point. If I select this point here on the upper edge, the extrusion will go all the way to that point. If I select the one lower from it, you'll notice it will move a bit to be in line with that point. Now we go to the next one, which is up to surface. Up to surface is very similar to up to vertex, with the exception that here we are selecting a surface instead of a vertex. So if I select the surface here, you'll notice the extrusion goes all the way to that surface. If I select the one behind it, the extrusion will go on to that surface. If I select this surface here on the top, you'll notice it goes all the way through that surface, and it's actually flushed with it. So if I draw a straight line from the edge to the extrusion, it will be connected. Offset from surface is very similar to up to surface, with the exception that here I can determine a certain distance of offset from my surface to the end of the extrusion. So here we have this upper surface selected again, but we have an offset of 80 millimeter. So the extrusion would go to 80 millimeter behind that surface. And I can increase or decrease that offset. I can also click reverse offset, and that will take the offset to the other side. So now 60 millimeter is not to the left, but it is to the right. And I can select any surface I want with this. So if I select this surface here, you will notice my extrusion would go an offset from that surface. In up to body, the extrusion will go to a certain body. This is commonly used when we have a multi-body part. However, this part we have here is not a multi-body part, so it's not very useful for us. Even though this is not a multi-body part, if I select the part itself, you will notice the extrusion goes all the way to it. Mid-plane is very similar to blind, with the exception that here we are going both directions. So here the total extrusion is 30, 15 of it is to the right, and 15 of it goes to the left. And if I increase that, it will be increasing from both directions. So this is a simple summary of all the end conditions we have for extruded boss. For this model, we want the extrusion to go up to next. So this is what we want, so I can click OK, and this finishes our model. In this lecture, we have explored end conditions for extruded boss. However, for extruded cut, we have exactly the same end condition, with the exception that it's going to be a cut instead of a boss. So while we're here, you can go ahead and create your own cuts for this model and experiment with end conditions for extruded cut.